Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. Yes, Michael Cohen. I sent a tweet out about 10 minutes ago saying we had to move up the show to noon instead of 1. Sorry about that. But
you're not going anywhere anyhow. You're in jail. Imagine a guy in jail complaining about us starting a show on time.
Yeah, you have no credibility at all. You were a lawyer for a piece of crap for 25 years. So what the hell? We're going to be accountable to you? Come on. We'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
Let's go back to the 70s, the good old 70s. Let's go back to when the NBA and the ABA merged. Let's go back to when the New York Nets owner Roy Bowe sold Julius Erving, the best player in that league and soon to be one of the best players in the NBA, for $2.5 million straight cash to the 76ers. Ruined the franchise. At that point, I said as a young kid, the Nets will never win again. They are cursed. I didn't put the curse. The curse was you sold your best player, literally sold him out. Players were mad. They killed the owner, rightly so. And yeah, the Nets got maybe close once, maybe twice.
The Buck Williams years and then the
twice, yeah. And so now they'll get close again. But if anybody wants to know why the Nets aren't going to win it all, this is why. It's really bad karma. And I still believe in it. And it's held up all these years.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't, unless they make another move to add, because I don't really follow the NBA that much, but obviously with the, first they get Kyrie and Durant and then trade for Harden, and paid way too much for Harden. That combination of the three. This isn't Bosh, LeBron, and Wade, because LeBron and Wade sort of complemented each other, big man and the guard, and then Bosh was the third wheel that was a pretty good role player, so to speak.
Yeah.
Here you've got three guys who want the ball, and there's only one goddamn ball. So
look, Harden used to be a point guard at times, so he could distribute it, but at the end of the day, I kind of look at it like this: they don't play hard defense. No. And even though there's no defense right now in the NBA, when the playoffs start, it gets a little more contentious.
Right.
And I think that's where they'll fall short. But I'm just saying, this is something like, imagine nowadays if like Cleveland sold LeBron to the Lakers instead of getting any assets in return, what would happen? I'm sure it would be denied anyhow. But just, it's a crazy situation. I can't think of another situation like that in a major sport in the 20th century. Certainly that happened in the early 19th century in baseball all the time. And Babe Ruth, I guess, was the early 20th century, but in the mid to later 20th century.
Well, King Clancy was sold by the Senators to the Leafs back in the 20s. Or 20s.
Yeah, early part of the 20s.
Yeah, so I mean, there are examples of that in,
but not like in the 60s or 70s.
No. I mean, it was. Yeah, I mean, not many examples like that. But then you were getting on the border of when free agency came along, and that came along in the mid 70s. So then, there was that ability for the player to determine where they wanted to go by themselves. But I'll tell you right now, I think unless you're a Nets fan, everybody's rooting against Brooklyn. Everybody wants them to lose because now they're like they're the evil empire. Now they've added, three big ego guys. I mean,
I don't think Durant's as big an ego as the other two. I'll say.
Yeah,
that.
No, I mean, I think Durant's is different. His ego is performance. He is a great player, and I think he thinks he's the best or one of the best players. And he's won championships. He's a great player, but he has every right to believe that. But Kyrie has been a sidekick with LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
He was a disaster in Boston. Now he's been doing what he's doing in Brooklyn, and I don't care about the social conscious stuff. And
no, but he's a moron as far as.
But it's like, okay, you can give money to George Floyd's family and play. You don't have to sit out for a month and you expose yourself to COVID at a birthday party and not be socially conscious. It's a load of crap.
That's dumb. I will say I can't call Kevin Durant every man, but I did bump into him at a Best Buy in Philly. Because I went in there and I was going in there before a Flyers game, and he must have just finished practicing with the Sixers, and he was in Best Buy. So there you go.
It's tough not to notice a guy who's 6'11".
I noticed him right off, like he was leaving, and I just looked straight up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's Kevin Durant." Yeah. I'd seen him before once at a game when they used to have what was it called? I forget which tournament they called it. It was a pre-college season tournament that they would have at MSG, and Texas played there. And so Kevin Durant was there, so I actually had a chance to see him.
Wasn't it like the preseason NIT or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then they were there, so that's the reason I recognized Durant in the early part of his career. Now, of course, everybody knows who he is. Although, if you collect Kevin Durant rookie cards, I do have one, and they're, what team is he on for his rookie card?
Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was drafted by Seattle, but I don't think he ever played a game for them, right?
Never.
So yeah, I know. Do we want to talk about the other thing we were going to mention on the pre-show, the gym?
Yes, let's talk about that.
Okay.
Because I have a list.
Go ahead.
So we want to talk about. We don't know what gym class has been like in the last 40 years or so, but we used to do some things that I'm pretty sure would be outlawed now in gym, and it was part of the regular curriculum. I will start with crab soccer. If you haven't heard of that, it's like a giant. Think of a soft volleyball, like 100 times bigger, and you're laying you're sitting down and you're kicking up with your feet. You're moving the ball with your feet. So guys would occasionally get kicked in the nose. You'd have bloody noses. Things like that would occur. Okay, we go to the vaulting box where I would say for a week in every gym class they would try and get us to be gymnasts, so they'd have the horse out and the vaulting box. And you had that little platform, the vaulting platform that you had to hit, and it was like spring loaded to get over the vaulting box, right? Because nobody could get over it otherwise. And they teach you how to do a move to do it. And a lot of guys would hit that face first, like they would just face plant in the vaulting box. I saw teeth get moved, teeth get knocked out. That was a regular occurrence. Then you had the rope, the famous gym rope that you had to climb. I would say. How many feet up will we say that is, Mike? 15?
20, at least.
20. No safety net. They had padding. There was padding down below. The teacher scared you into not finishing. You had to go to the top and put your hand and touch the metal and come down. And inevitably, you got burned on the rope. It didn't matter how good you were at doing it. And you're in shorts. And so you got rope burn.
Rope burn on your hands and on the inside of your thighs.
Which is really bad on the inside.
You're climbing with your legs and your hand. I have to,
Yeah, go ahead.
Confession time. I got up about maybe 2 feet, and that was about it. I was terrible.
I'm not sure I ever finished it either. I was very good at pull-ups. I was like second in my gym class for that. I don't know if I ever finished the rope.
I hated these friggin' people that, hey, no problem, boom, and they climb up all the way to the whole 18 feet and touch the metal clasp on top.
Yeah.
I was hoping they would disconnect themselves and fall 18 feet.
I mean, the only bone I ever broke in my life was playing dodgeball, and that's because I used to play the front line because I could literally catch anything you would throw. And I was a smaller guy. I was probably like 5'3" for a long time and like 120 pounds. But I was good at catching the ball, right? Because I played a lot of baseball. So all these big guys, they would try and throw it. And one day they just hit my finger and it broke. But if you think about 75% of the eliminations in dodgeball, you hit the guy in the head. I would say at least 75% of the time. Once in a while, you hit someone in the back, right?
Yes.
You remember getting hit in the head in dodgeball? Definitely.
Yeah.
And I got one more with hockey.
Okay.
So we would play hockey, and the goalie would stand against like the gym, the chair, not the gym chairs, but the benches. You know how they used to recess. So you push it back, and it's just like a wall. That's where the goalie would go. We'd have the orange Milek puck, and we had plastic sticks. And I'm telling you that we used to shoot high with that puck. Like whoever played net, they didn't have any padding. They literally were there with the same stick and everything else. And I used to feel bad. It was like a shooting gallery.
Well, I told Russ that in 5th grade, this was like the height of my sporting career as a preteen. 5th grade, I was on a floor hockey team at the team at the school, and the two best teams in our floor hockey gym league got to play in front of the entire school basically as an assembly. And I was, of course, being the ham that I am.
What position were you playing?
Normally, I played goal, and I love playing goal. But there was a guy who was a little better than me at playing goal, and I played defense. So the only thing I could do on defense, because I wasn't the fleetest of foot, but I would block shots.
Okay.
I took advantage of the fact that we were on a gym floor, and I slid and dove in front of every possible shot. So I blocked, and I was getting the oohs and ahs from the crowd, and then I went a little bit too far because the net was set up at the end of the gym with the padding on the walls, and in the corner you had the two doors. You had the two, with the bar and the metal bar in the middle, the two, and with the exit sign on top. And I got a little too over the top and checked somebody through the door.
Can't imagine you getting over the top on anything, Mike. That's really out of character.
Let me just share this quickly, and then we'll get started here, because I mentioned this when we were talking about this last night, and I have to share it just for everybody's pain. Watch this guy, and you're talking about the vault. Watch this guy and the mishap that happens. He runs down and boom.
And that's off the horse. The horse is very unforgiving.
Oh my God! It was. I saw that on like a George Michael sports machine, and they used that thing that was like basically the agony of defeat for that show.
Yeah, the vaulting box was a little higher. It did have padding like that did, but the horse, it's all wood, and they're all wood.
I'm surprised that guy didn't break multiple, like Drew Brees broke multiple ribs. But okay, we'll start the show here.
All
right. Eck should be joining us any moment. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021, the day the music died.
How do I follow that? It died
a long time ago.
It died in 1950. Okay, whatever year that was.
59.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. Thanks for taking the show down, Mike.
And in tribute, I'm wearing my Buddy Holly glasses. This is Michael Lagello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. And we'll start with some breaking news. Not big news, but just
Peggy Sue got married. No, go ahead.
Well, please, just as a sidelight, because we had that movie in the movie theater, and it was Kathleen Turner when she was rather young and rather attractive. And I saw a movie made with her about 2 years ago, and oh my God. Yeah, please. It's just it's a travesty to see how one so beautiful became one not so beautiful. But such is life. I used to be beautiful. Well, sometime. Anyway, Braden Coburn has been placed on waivers by the Ottawa Senators. This is not totally unexpected because the Ottawa Senators are, what are they, 1-9-1 now, I think. They lost last night to Edmonton, and Coburn was acquired as part of that sort of salary dump deal, bringing in Paquette and him, and it was trading off the injured players so that Tampa could get under the cap.
You know what the old saying is, Mike? They'll be bad with them. They'll be bad without them.
Right, and they have young defensemen in their system like Eric Brandstrom, who they might want to get time for. I wonder whether Coburn gets picked up.
So will he get picked up? I think there could be a team. I don't think the Flyers will be that team. I know people are going to generally say, would the Flyers do that? I don't think the Flyers are going to do that because I think at the end of the day, he can't play on the top pairing. He might be able to fake being like a number 4 for a few minutes a game, but I don't think they'll do it. So do I think a team will do it? Yeah, I think somebody might. They might look at their long-term projection and say, if we use Coburn 7-8 times in the regular season, but kind of have him hanging around. Like, remember how St. Louis had Del Zotto hanging around?
Right. And
Del Zotto didn't play a lick in the Stanley Cup. I'm not sure. Did he play in the playoffs at all for them? I'm not sure he did.
I don't think he played a game.
Right, but somebody might pick up Coburn for those reasons.
He was part of their Black Aces.
Right. So, it's possible someone will do it for that.
Now, I'm just looking up Coburn's salary. I think it was but it was less than 2, 1.7.
Yeah, 1.7's kind of high now, though.
But if Ottawa agrees to retain a little,
right? If they agree to retain half, you could get a 4th-round pick, 5th-round pick for Coburn.
Right, as an $850,000 defenseman.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets traded someplace, but at 1.7, I think you're right. I think nobody.
1.7 is too high for him.
Yeah. Now we'll start with that game because, I have to say, I mean, like I said, I feel a little sorry for the Senators because they're just getting it from.
For the Senators or their fans? I feel sorry for their fans.
Well, I feel sorry for their fans, all 6 of them.
No, there's a lot of Senators fans. I know people in Ottawa. You know better than that. Yeah. There's a lot of Senators fans. Joe Innes is a Senators fan. You know her, so
yes, I do, and I feel sorry for her. I try to convince her to come over from the dark
nobody's
side.
Coming to the dark side.
Yeah, but no, I mean, okay, this is the thing. I mean, the Senators are 1-8-1. They won.
What's that winning percentage now, Mike?
What's that winning percentage? 100.
It's a 100. Think about the last time you saw a winning percentage like that. 20. I want to Leafs into the season for any team.
The Leafs under Ron Wilson, I think, started like 07-1. So I can't really, I mean, but okay. But this is the thing. And I heard Dave Poulin on Toronto radio this morning, in terms of asking, why the Senators are playing as badly as they are, and for all the talk that we said during the before the season about them, well, they may be better than people think because they brought in, they added Galchenyuk and they brought in Stepan and they brought in Paquette and Coburn. And Poulin was of the opinion that you brought in 8 or 9 new bodies, some of them that probably didn't even want to be there, some of them that are playing out the final year of their contract. They didn't they didn't come to Ottawa to like, okay, we're going to get the Senators in the playoffs. This is like, the penance they had to pay before getting to free agency. And they did that because they didn't want to rush some of their young kids. And I get that. And I agree with that. But at a certain point, when it's not working, now I think you start to have to think about getting work for your kids. And maybe the Coburn waiver is the first move of that.
Yeah, this is still a long-term project. This is the Eugene Melnyk plan of, we're going to be competitive next year because he pushed a date in the future and was hoping for the best. It's not going to happen. They're not going to be a playoff team next year. They're still years away. They have to start obtaining veterans to mid to long-term deals, to start working with these young players and mix them and combine them together. If you don't, you see what the Edmonton Oilers have gone through. You're going to be on the same path, Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, and now the Oilers are now at 500. But I'm going to write about this a little later on. You've got 2 teams in the North Division that I think their records are really how should I say it? Not accurate in terms of how good of a team they are. I mean, I think Edmonton is a terrible team. I think they're badly put together. They have talent, but it's not throughout their lineup. And they've played Ottawa a couple times. They played they played Toronto 4 times, and they've split with Toronto. But their schedule has been fairly easy, and they're 6-6. Montreal, we'll go to them in a minute. They're 7-1-2, and they're they've played Vancouver, who's struggled 5 times.
But again,
and you play who you're scheduled to play.
You do that, and also Vancouver last year in the bubble was a very good team. So again, preseason I did pick Travis Green to be the first coach fired, and then when I saw the Rangers start the way they did, I'm like, maybe we'll be David Quinn, and I backed off it a little. Green's job could still be in trouble here because there's a lot of expectations in Vancouver, and can we make the argument that if there's a change in coaching and philosophy, could they play better? And I think they could. I think they're definitely not playing up to their capability right now.
Well, Vancouver's coming off. They played Montreal 3 times in Vancouver. Now they played Montreal twice in Montreal. They're coming to play 3 in Toronto starting tomorrow. I would have to say if they lose 2 of 3, Green might be in trouble.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that's a definite.
now,
And
just getting to this game specifically, Puljujarvi scored his first 2 goals of the season. He was on. I know that they toyed with him on a line with McDavid early or late in the Leaf game on Saturday. I don't think you're going to get the value out of Puljujarvi if you're going to play him on the 3rd and 4th line. You have to play him with skill to see if he can
do. And he had a couple goals, like you said, but you do have to play him that way. If you do, I mean, again, he is not going to like be the guy to start your 3rd line and make them like a scoring line where you have all of a sudden extra scoring. It's not going to happen. Right. He is a complementary player.
Right. And it doesn't matter anymore that he was taken 3rd overall. I mean, now
Jake's asking, what is Vancouver's problem? It's very simple. They don't play defense.
Yeah.
Their team defense stinks. They can move the puck. They're fast, but their team defense stinks. Now,
and I think they're hanging their goaltenders out to dry.
They are.
Really,
they absolutely are.
So, I mean, that was clear. I mean, that was clear last night. And going to this game, the Habs win 5-3 over the Canucks. In the previous game, I saw like a number of just clear-cut breakaways. Last night, Toffoli scored. You know, Toffoli. If Toffoli could play Vancouver every game, he'd be a 70-goal scorer. He's got 9 goals this year, and 8 of them are against Vancouver. Now, the fact that the Canadians have played Vancouver 5 times in 10 games.
Yeah.
And just think of it this way, folks. They've played him 5 times in 10 games. Now they won't play him. They'll play them 4 times in the remaining 46. So that's why I'm saying I think the schedule has been beneficial to Montreal, and it won't end with it there because Montreal plays Ottawa the next 2 games. So, I mean, you know, they could very easily be 9-1-2 after those 2 games. But they are
looking pretty good for my prediction there, but they're good. I mean, we knew they added depth. We knew adding guys like Toffoli, Suzuki getting a year older, all those things were going to be beneficial to them. I'm not going to vote Jeff Petrie for the Norris because Cale Makar right now is the Norris guy for me, but it could be Quinn Hughes again too. Quinn Hughes is 14 points on a lousy team, and he's more than a point a game as a defenseman. So I get what you're saying about Jeff Petrie. He's a good defenseman, but he's not at the level of those other guys. He's got points. Yes, he's got 13 points. I get it in 10 games. We'll see what happens during the course of the season for him. But, you know, Makar's got 12 points in 11 games. But if you watch Makar, it's just crazy some of the things he can do on the ice. So,
and somebody in the Funky in the chat saying that Vancouver misses Tanev. They missed Tanev, but to play because he played with Hughes. But they're also missing, I'd say, at least 1 or 2 defensemen. I mean, the Hamonic is hurt. I don't know if Edler is back yet.
Edler's playing, and he is blocking shots, but not the same way he used to. He's blocking 1 or 2 a game, right, and he's getting 2 or 3 hits a game. And they need multiple guys doing that on their blue line, and they don't have it right now.
Yeah, now Pettersson scored a goal yesterday, so hopefully he's got 4 goals, which isn't bad, but you know, they need him to be, you know, the Pettersson of last year where he was just incredibly creative and dangerous. And, you know, his offense is basically a defense in and of itself because then the other team is afraid to sort of counterattack because he's so quick and so talented. So I don't know. I mean, you know, I was talking with somebody and they says, you know, of course, Vancouver will straighten things out now. They're going to play the Leafs 3 in a row. So all of a sudden they'll find all their offense. The debut of Patrick Laine as a Columbus Blue Jacket last night as they take on the Dallas Stars. Stars win 6-3. Have to say, first of all, the jersey didn't work.
No.
The third jersey, I saw somebody online said, oh, you know, okay, great jersey great third jersey for the Blue Jackets. It looked like the Washington Capitals jersey. It really did.
Yeah, it did. It did. I don't like it. Just, I don't know. Why did they do that? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, we know why the league did it. We know that they did it strictly to make some money, you know, but I think they would have been able to make more money if the jerseys had been good. And there have been very few and far between. I know that the LA Kings jersey we saw last night was pretty decent. there was the blue. It was the purple. Well,
Forum blue and forum
blue
gold.
and
That's
gold.
what Dave Taylor told me.
Yes, and so it was forum blue and gold, and
they're beautiful.
Yeah, with the Gretzky Kings emblem, and I thought it was good. I thought it was pretty decent.
I would get a pillow sham set with that. I'm
Not
just saying, I'm not a
not a My Pillow set.
No, listen, don't go there. He's got his own problem.
Yeah, is opening his mouth. That's his problem. But now, Laine played over 20 minutes. He had 2 shots on goal, and
two
shots.
I mean, I get he hasn't played in a while, so people want to give him a little break. That's fine. But I'm telling you, if we're going to talk about Patrick Laine as an all-time goal scorer, I can't tell you how many times guys change teams from other teams, go into a game, and they take 6, 7, 8 shots. He probably took a few more that didn't hit the net, but I got to tell you, he took one on a one-timer that was as shaky as if I did it. The way the way the stick hit the ice and it like reverberated, like.
Now I checked.
I don't know if he's in sync. I don't think Patrick Laine is in sync.
I checked in and out on this game, and I'd heard that they started him with Alexander Texier as his center, and I'm like, okay, you're not giving
really helping him.
No, you're not giving him the
pretty good. But
I mean, they don't have a number 1 center, but you should probably put him with Max Domi. But if you're not going to do that, then I don't think you're helping out Laine, and I think that eventually he's going to say, "Get me the hell out of here," like half the other people who've been in Columbus say.
My answer to Cam is, if you like the Columbus retro, buy it. Anyhow, when my big problem here with Columbus, I'll get off the Laine thing. We will give him a little more of a chance.
Yeah.
Their goaltending stinks. It flat out stinks. Both of them stink, and they're going to have a problem making the playoffs with this goaltending.
And that's a complete 180 from last year, because Lickens and Korpisalo were excellent last year. It was a good 1-2 tandem. Korpisalo was lights out against the Leafs and Tampa.
I know.
So, I mean, it's a little shocking, and that's got to be something for Torts, because, I mean, that's how they're going to win, is good goaltending, good defense, and occasional offense. And they're not getting.
They're doing the opposite of that right now, Mike.
Yeah, I know. If they're not getting the goaltending, you're not going to generate tons of offense with what they have. I mean, Laine will score goals eventually, but they're just not going to be a team that people are fear. Because what? Boone Jenner's coming down the wing. It's he's a
nice player, but
nice player. Nothing wrong with him. But
I look at Columbus right now, and I thought they were better than this. Maybe they'll start to do better. Luckily, the division stinks, so they still have a chance, and that includes Tampa just hasn't played. If Tampa played a lot, they will run away with this division. I don't even think it's going to be close. Now, Dallas is hot. So maybe Dallas will be the team that stays close to them, and Carolina is off to a good start. But there's, this is the prototypical division where you're going to have like 3 or 4 good teams, and the rest are just bottom feeders.
And I have to say, the Stars. I mean, this is the Joe Pavelski of the playoffs. He's got 7 goals. Gurianov is playing well. Ben is, playing pretty decently. I mean, Pavelski had 4 points last night. Really, I'm almost ashamed of the prediction I made at the beginning of the year, because I thought like there would be a come down in reality from.
Me too, but it's only 7 games in, so
Right, but it's just, and Jake Ottinger got the win yesterday, so maybe that means they'll start using him more.
They have the most. They're tied with Chicago for goals, 29 in that division, which is a lot. It's a lot for anybody. Pittsburgh has 30. I mean, it's a lot. But again, will they keep it up that clip? I don't know. But again, I still say with Carolina, Florida, Dallas, Tampa looking good, Columbus, Chicago, Nashville, Detroit, they're all going to get those wins from them. So it's a 4-team race. This whole division, you could lop off the other 4 teams. I'm sorry if you're a fan of those teams, but you're pretty much going to be able to lop them off, and it's just going to be a matter of
when we looked at
who comes out on top.
When we looked at the beginning of the year, we said this was clearly the worst division.
Yeah,
I thought the Central was the worst division.
It is. No, but I mean, right now the East isn't as good as it should be,
right?
But I think it will get a little better. But this is the worst division, I think. And again, we'll just see. We'll see how it all plays out. But when these top 4 teams start playing each other a lot, that's when we'll know who the good teams in the division are, I think.
Yeah. Now, a game that we watched a significant portion of, and you wouldn't think that looking at the score being 2-1 that it was any kind of really good game, but it was. And that was Colorado and
Minnesota. It was a great game.
Now, I'll tell you something. I have my campaign for Kaprizov to win the Calder, which I think is a very, very likely based on what we saw last night. But we've been waiting and we've been talking, you and I and Ak have been talking about Minnesota and these 3 or 4 players who needed to come up and be something for them to be good.
Yep.
It hadn't happened. Cunnin was one of them and he gets traded. But, it's Jordan Greenway. It's Joel Eriksson Ek. Kaprizov was in the KHL. It was Kaprizov. And you look at him, and you look last night, and Greenway was basically like a snowplow going to the
he looked so good.
Joel Eriksson Ek has been playing fantastic, and Kaprizov with the goal that he scored. I mean, boy, and the veterans that they have surrounding those guys. This is a really good. The only thing I question with them is I don't think Cam Talbot is a really number 1 goalie, but
I agree.
But that team looked. Even though they lost,
and they're going to get Zuccarello at some point.
Yeah,
that's a big thing too. He's like a really key player for them.
He is.
No, they're really they're a fun team to watch. They are. They have a new characteristic. I agree with you on Cam Talbot. But they have this, they have a couple.
Kakinen, but I don't think they think he's ready. That's why.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to that.
Now, granted, Colorado was not at full strength. McKinnon was not in the lineup. I think Eric Johnson was not in the lineup. They were missing some key players. Grubauer played pretty well, but I still, Russ, we were both looking at that team, and we're both saying, "Wow, they're good," and boy, is Makar great. And I don't think there's a question about their ability to score. I don't think there's a question about their depth. I don't think there's a question about their defense. The only thing is the question about the goaltending, but it doesn't mean that they're not a good team. It's just that
Grubauer had a good game. Like, you can't possibly look at that game.
I said he had a good game.
I think he's better.
Yeah, good.
I think Grubauer is better than a lot of times what people say about him.
Well, he's got to prove it to me.
He's very athletic. I've seen him in different stages of his career, and I thought he was a good goalie. Right now, that blue line is just something, though. You watch Makar, you watch Gerard, you watch Bowen Byram, and you have Ryan Graves, and you're thinking, man, they don't even need Eric Johnson. But when they have Eric Johnson, that's really good too. Like, I'm telling you, the way they move the puck. There's nobody in the league that moves the puck like they do, except for maybe Edmonton with their top line. And there's the way they control the puck. There's nobody in the league that controls the puck. They have the top differential. I think them and the Habs are still the best 2 teams, and I'm going to stick with that all year. But I'm just saying, when you look at this team, it's hard to find holes in it.
I think them and the Habs are the best 2 teams.
Yeah, I do, and that's why I picked to go to the Cup this year. So that means something will go wrong,
Well, yeah, of course. No, but I mean,
I picked it.
I had a quick question for you guys. Does my microphone sound okay?
Yes, you're fine.
Yesterday, I was watching the show afterwards a little bit.
It was cutting in and out a little bit.
Your mic's good, strong.
Yeah, yesterday it cut out.
Yesterday was really weak. I mean, if that happens, guys, if you guys,
I didn't notice it.
Yeah, when I was listening to it, I'm like, geez, it sounded.
Yeah, I didn't notice it at all.
It sounded muffled and weak. I'm just making sure that this one
sounds fine.
Okay, you guys had like way more presence in your voice than I did. All right, okay, cool.
That's just me.
We're sorry if we're just better. We're sorry.
All right, yeah, no problem. Montreal, I would not put them as one of the best teams in the league yet. I mean, they're strong, but that's a biggie.
Well, we were just talking about that. And it's
their record says it. Like, what else do you need to see?
All right, here's the thing about records, and I want to bring this up because I really do feel it's like I said to you, Russ, before, and because you and I are able to watch the games live, and Mike isn't. We have a really serious advantage there, and we've seen the level of play rise, and in a big way, like a really substantial way, and part of that is also because we get to sit closer now. I think that we also get that also helps to see the speed changes, like the speed of the game is way faster when you're lower towards the ice. But also the differences in the speed of the game are way more noticeable. And I think that's something I've noticed. Like in the first couple of games, there was slower hockey. Now it's the other night against the Islanders was really fast-paced hockey at times. Mm-hmm. Tonight against the Bruins will be the same thing, I'm sure. But I feel as if every preseason we see like teams like have these great runs, like they like ridiculous preseason runs. We're like, it doesn't mean anything. They're 6-0 in the preseason or whatever. They do this thing, but some teams just like, and those teams, the one thing they have in common usually is they're younger teams with guys trying to make the lineup, newer teams, newer players. And I'm going to say the first 10 games of this season were almost like that. Now, I'm not saying that you won't be able to getting off to that start. It's not going to help you because it is. But I want to see where Montreal is in 20 games, because I think I have a feeling that we're going to see like a regular season thing click in with some of these players, especially some of the older players. You've definitely seen it. Like the best example on the Flyers, at least because of watching him live, whatever, is Giroux. Like Giroux's game between the beginning of the year, he was like, I was starting to think, man, this guy's gotten better. Yes. This guy's totally done. Like, and it's not even points. It's just the things he does away from everything, Well, but yeah, I think that I want to see now because I think the preseason's over, and will those teams be able to hold it in as we go?
Okay, I think that's fair to say.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's like you were saying,
the
first 10 games of the regular season in a normal 82-game schedule. And this is why the Leafs always get off to a great start. Everybody's playing sort of like they're figuring out how to play.
Right.
And defensively, they don't know where they are, and it's wide open, and it's and that's why you see teams like Buffalo sometimes just jump out because they can take advantage of teams.
Right.
But then I would say by the 30 or 40 game mark, by the halfway mark of the season, teams are almost in playoff mode where they're playing tough in terms of letting players go to the net, in terms of denying entries into the zone, all those things. I think that it's probably going to take a little longer this year in terms of now you have 56 games. I think it's going to take probably to the 30 or 35 game mark because these teams had 10-day training camps and no preseason to organize themselves. But the teams that have the advantage right now, I mean, Toronto has an advantage before the start of the season.
Whoa, that was crazy.
Mike, you just turned into Max Headroom for a second there.
You did.
Really?
Right. Yeah, you went Toronto has.
You were in a loop there.
Really funny.
Wow, okay. Because I was going to say Toronto practiced together for a month before the beginning of training camp.
Right.
So they had the advantage of being more aware of what and I think got off to a pretty good start because of that. The thing with Montreal, and I was just saying to Russ, they played Vancouver, a hapless defensive Vancouver, 5 times in 10 games. I want to see what they are after 25 games, but the next 2 games they're playing Ottawa, so they're going to get 2 more victories out of those games.
Yeah, and they will, and
you have to take advantage of the bad teams in your division. But in the North, I think there's 3 bad teams, and Vancouver is right now.
I think Vancouver's not going to be a bad team that much longer. I think they'll get it together as it goes along here.
We're talking about this, Ek.
Yeah.
If they lose a couple more games, Travis Green will get fired, and they'll be a better team for a different coach.
Yeah, that's true. That's very possible. And it is just an example.
They are better than their record. We all know it. But if they don't prove it soon, I think there's going to be a problem in Vancouver.
I mean, Vancouver is suffering from losing their goalie, who was a big guy, who was a big player on their team. I mean, like you said, the Demko thing.
I don't think their goaltending.
The goaltending has been. It's not like I said. Sometimes it's not like how the goalie plays. It's more of like it's not whether he's good or bad. It's more of just like general feeling the team has, the way they play around it, like the confidence they have. If you really trust your goalie fully, like Montreal can fully trust their goalie.
It'd be nice if they laid a few more hits and blocked a few more shots.
Yeah, right. It would be, but if you can fully trust your goalie, that changes everything. It just changes everything. Whether or not goalie's playing well or not, your offense might be better because you're just going to take more chances.
I also think again, there's a drop off from Markstrom to Holtby. Holtby is not nearly as athletic. He's not nearly as dynamic when you need to make these crazy saves with a team that's not great defensively. That is not Holtby's thing.
Yeah, and look at that.
Demko's a positional goalie too.
The one thing about the G.R. Harrison's terrific Northern Division is that they have this ability you have to be a little bit acrobatic because you're looking at a lot of skill, like a whole lot of skill coming at you. Some of the most skilled players in the league are going to score some beautiful goals. If you're not acrobatic, if you're not able to go side to side quickly, you're in trouble. I mean, this is like, because you're either going to be facing McDavid or Matthews or Draisaitl or or Peterson or look at what Johnny Gaudreau's doing this year. Who would have saw that coming? He's doing really, really well, and he's taking over. And there's so much skill level that you needed.
Well, I would say I saw it coming because when everybody else was bailing out on Gaudreau, I didn't.
Yeah, I picked him to win the scoring title. You guys forget that?
I did forget that, but all right, good for you.
And then our little with Kevin Allen.
I'll have to go back and review the tape.
Yeah, look it out. But anyway, so that
this is the bigger problem, Mick. Yeah. Even for Holtby, right now he's at an 896, but he has already had to make 189 saves. Right. That is probably like third in the league. Koskinen is first for the shots against. That's too much. Holtby can't do that for a whole season.
That's a lot.
He's not that guy anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you. Unfortunately, he shouldn't. I mean, Demko should be pretty much a 50-50 team, I think.
They should be, but I don't know if they are.
Yeah, and then when it gets down to it in the playoffs and the pressure and everything like that, what will they be? In the pressure wins. I mean, it is a bizarre division. I mean, look at like Edmonton, just they're racking up points like crazy against Ottawa. Go and play Ottawa.
Everybody racks up points.
Everyone racks. Yeah, but I mean, those guys particularly, like
their winning percentage is 100.
Yeah, the scoring title. The scoring title is like if with McDavid playing Ottawa that many times is just his. There's no.
Yeah, the Art Ross. But I will ask you about this. So I was asked about this on Sirius yesterday. And I felt like it was a legit question from them, and it made me think for a minute. And then we sort of broached it a little yesterday, or not yesterday. Mike and I were doing it offline. And here's the thing: so when you're in that division now, there's this high Canadian concentration of players, reporters, and stats.
Yep.
I feel like there's going to be some insulation going on there as to voting around the league. For the rest of the awards.
That's a really good point.
And I do feel that because, again, I feel a little isolated just from watching some of the other teams, and I'm making it my business to do it. But you have to admit, the way these divisions are, it's easy to get lost in the East or easy to get lost in the Central or right, Mike? I think it's easy to get lost in these divisions.
Yeah, I mean, I know that like I've heard reporters who cover the Leafs saying that they're really fighting to watch other divisions because they're just everything is Winnipeg, Calgary, Montreal, Vancouver. That's all they have to concentrate on is 6 other teams because that's the teams that the Leafs or the other teams in the division are playing. So it's natural. But the only thing I think is if you're using Petrie and Makar as an example, even though Petrie plays for Montreal, he's an American. Makar is a Canadian. And he's playing for a team that everybody thinks is one of the best teams in the league. So that might eventually balance things out. And plus, do you think Jeff Petrie's going to be leading the Canadians in scoring at the end of the year?
This is like I say. This really feels like when you look at the stats, it really feels like a preseason statistic thing. Like it feels like you're looking at the stats at the end of preseason, and you're like, wow, that's real. Petrie, nah, he's not going to get. So that's why you got to see how this plays out. Like I really feel as if that's the case.
Plus, it is. Yeah, in his career, I think the leading goal scorer in October. You remember Brian Savage, who played for the Canadians? He was always in the top 10 in scoring in October, and then he would drop off the face of the planet.
Oh yeah, I mean he would kill it in preseason too. Like it was because remember having your hockey drafts and sitting there and you're looking at the preseason stats and. I was always a sucker for that. Like I would always.
Oh, you would do that.
I would bite too far into it. I'm like, man, he's doing, and I'd always get screwed. As a kid, I remember that so many times.
Drop him in November. That's what shit.
Yeah, and I'm still, I have to say, still a sucker for preseason sometimes because in my predictions, if you look back, I tend to be very good the first couple months of the season. Like there'll be surprising things that are at the top, the teams are doing that I predicted to do well, but eventually they don't. Like but in the beginning of the season, I tend to have this like. And I don't know why.
This isn't a regular season.
It's not. It's very different.
And the schedule is going to show that more and more. Like we've probably, I don't have a number, but I'm going to say fights are on the rise by like 15%, 20% already.
Yeah.
Because these teams are playing each other so much.
And we saw that. It's really good one. That's a really good question, because a really good point. And I want to talk about the dynamics of a hockey fight in an empty building. Mm-hmm. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. So this, for all intents and purposes, Russ, we are watching men's league games. Like we're watching the best men's league in the world.
In the sense that there's no fans, yeah.
Right. The sense that there's no, like, if you ever sat, gone to a men's league game or whatever,
or even some of the World Junior games, especially in Buffalo.
Right. So, to me, that there's that, so you're watching these, and men's league fights. It always amazes me when you see guys like get into a fight in a men's league game, or they usually get, obviously there's no fighting allowed in those leagues, but they get kicked out of the league often. But you'll see it. But the emotion of like, when you can yell from the bench, to your guys fighting, they can hear everything you're saying and all that stuff that's going on. I wonder the dynamics of fights in empty buildings and how
they're still trying to sell this to us, that there's a big lift for the team, and maybe Simmons did it once for the Leafs. But I have to tell you, most of the fights I see, I don't see a lift for either team.
Well, no, in this scenario. We talked about it yesterday. The Trent Frederick lift
that changed something. Yeah, I mean, I think the lift might be more.
You really think it's more? I think fans, I can't say it's more.
No, because fans. Because here's the difference. Here's the difference. If you're a home team and you get in a fight and you win the fight, that's a huge lift for you. But now, it doesn't really matter if you're home or away. Whoever wins the fight gets the lift. Like if the away team would win the fight normally, that's a lift for that team. But the crowd's quiet. It's not. It's a lift. But now I think that the lift comes either way. So if the fight really doesn't matter home or away as much. It also is the time of the game. Sorry about that. There's something going on in the background. Mm-hmm. It's also the time of the game. Like, okay, Simmons' fight with Sherratt in the opener against Montreal was when the Leafs were down, I think 3-1 in the second period. They scored a couple power play goals. He got there was a penalty on the additional penalty. They got a power play goal. They tied up the game. They ended up winning the game in overtime. And every player on the Leafs after said it was a turnaround. Frederick got in the fight with Wilson. It was 3-2 Washington in the third period. Boston scored 3 goals. They won 5. I think that it's the time of the game. And sometimes it doesn't even matter who wins the fight. If it's basically, if you're behind and some guy gets into a fight, and even if he loses the fight, it shows that there's some fight in the team. Yeah. I think the time of the game is meaningful as much as who wins.
No, I think the time of the game matters. Here, I've got a fight log, and right now, this is only from the 23rd. So there have been a ton of fights.
Right.
Tyler Myers, Joel Edmondson, first period. Yeah. Nathan Blow, Michael Haley, first period. Roussel and Watson was third period in that game that's just third period. Zach McEwen, Austin Watson, third period. Mark Stone, Falk, second. Sherratt and Kachuk was a third. Foligno and McDermott is a first. McEwen and Brady Kachuk was a third. Yanni Gord and Dante Fabro was a third. Patrick Maroon and Boris Morieski was a second. Getzlaff and Clifford the first. Howden and Kasperi Kapanen the first. That Wilson one was a third. Last night, Comfer and Rao was a second, and McDermott and Delorier is also a first. So I will preface it and say the first period ones aren't doing much for their teams at all.
No,
the dynamic between a first period fight and a third period fight.
I think Mike's right about that.
Is very different. There's a different dynamic there. A fight from a first period could be a carryover in the back-to-back games. That's possible.
And when it's a fight, and what's a fight between McDermott and Delorier, 2 fourth-line grinders, nobody really cares.
But when a guy gets legitimately beaten in a fight, and there's no fans in the arena, I think that affects you. I think that affects your bench, and I think that affects everything. Well,
McDermott won that fight against Delorier 93%. They lost the game.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not to say it's going to.
I know, but I'm just saying.
I just think we can all debate the impact fights have on games, but in general. But I think that it is fascinating to watch a fight in an arena where there are no fans, because in my opinion, part of the fight thing was the fans. That was why you fought in a way, was to get the fans going or knock the fans back, or whatever you were trying to do. That had an element to it. Without that, it's just pure hatred and anger. You're not gonna see staged fights without fans. I think that's the other thing too. I think staged fights also have to do with fans. I really do. I think that also plays into it. We have to,
I'm counting up the fights here. 9, 10, 11.
I haven't really seen any staged fights though. Have you? I mean,
no, 17, 18.
Not really.
19, 20, 21, 22. There's about 25, 26 fights already. That's a lot.
So the ton of fights.
2 dozen fights in 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and the fights down. Every year they come down. Every year they come down. So this year they're going to go up.
No, but
they're going up. Yeah.
This year they're going to go up even more because you're having teams playing each other double the times that they normally do, and these are teams that are going to potentially play each other in the playoffs. You're gonna see an increase, a notable increase. And honestly, that's the hockey I grew up on. I don't think it's bad.
No, I don't think it's bad either. So Earl in the chat room says, well, Delorier set a good tone with the Ducks for the fight, but he lost the fight. So we're just talking about guys who won or lost the fight. But X-Right, sometimes when a guy fights and you know he's not going to win, yes, the team could get fired up, but Delorier fights. It's not like a guy that doesn't fight.
That was that was a legitimate loss to another heavyweight, basically.
Right. It was two heavyweights. When you like, if Travis Konechny fights a heavyweight, if he fights Tom Wilson, your team's going to get a lift because they know he's going to get slaughtered.
Right. We haven't now. There's interesting things about this rivalry is we haven't seen some of them yet, really.
Right.
Edmonton and Calgary haven't played yet. I don't think
they play Saturday. Yeah, they haven't played yet. They're the first one is. Do they play Saturday and is it Sunday? I'm not sure. They play. Oh, they just have a one-off on Saturday. That's really interesting.
Yeah,
they have a one-off on Saturday, and then I'm looking at Edmonton's schedule. I'm looking at Calgary's schedule right now to see when they play Edmonton again. They'll play till the 19th of February, where they play back-to-back the 19th and 20th. So,
we haven't seen the Devils in yet. They're in next week.
Yeah, Toronto and Montreal played opening night, and they haven't played since.
Yeah, right. Here's an interesting thing about the Edmonton Calgary 19th and 20th. It's back-to-back nights, but in opposite buildings.
No, they don't have to travel.
It's a home and home.
Right, it's a home and home game. It's a home and home regular home and home series. But we have that's another dynamic.
Well, that's a baseball dynamic that now you have in hockey.
Yeah. So when do we
happen in hockey once in a while? Like the Rangers and Bruins have done that. But it does happen.
That's like Buffalo and Toronto playing a home and home. All they have to do is get here. They can actually get on a bus because it's not 8 hours.
I'm not understanding the bus.
Even more so with the Philly area.
I know about the bus.
I know.
In our area around here, it's even more so because in the Philly area, my gosh, there's
on a bus in Seattle, but Mike forgets anyhow.
But what's interesting about that is, man, and what, the NHL.com page is not working again. It's really funny.
Really, I am shocked.
I know this page is not working. A little sad guy.
Well,
I was trying to find out the whole concept of because so far in this division, where you have teams like the Islanders and Rangers and Devils who are literally in the same place. We have not seen back-to-backs in opposite cities.
Yeah,
right.
It's just they just go to one place and play there.
That's why I think right now, even though I give Montreal full credit for being a much improved team, and I think they are, and I think they're going to be a playoff team, and I predicted that they were going to be a playoff team. I don't think you've got the Montreal honks right now, basically planning. They're planning the parade route around in La Belle Provence, and I'm just like, okay, cool your jets because you've played Vancouver 5 times, you've played Ottawa. Your schedule, you played Edmonton twice, Calgary twice, I think it was Ottawa or Toronto once, and Vancouver 5 times. So when you've played Toronto 5 or 6 times, and you've played Calgary, and then it's more balanced, then we'll see how good you are. And I think they're good, but it's like calm down.
No, and I totally agree, and Florida is off to a good start, but they also played Detroit 2 of their 5 games, so it's like. Right. I mean, this whole thing, is really, who they played before? After they played Columbus, who's been struggling. So they played Columbus and they played Chicago. So their 5 games are 1 game against Chicago, 2 against Columbus, and 2 against Detroit. So they haven't lost 2 against Chicago. Sorry, 2 against. So they're 6 games. They haven't lost in regulation, but they played Chicago, Columbus, and Detroit. That's been a struggle, So
it's nice to pad your stats. It's nice to get wins in the win column when you have to against teams that you're better than. But it's not representative of how good you are. You've got to be able to at least go 500 against the good teams and take advantage of those teams to be a playoff team. And
one thing for them if you're following the Panthers, and I've been following this year because they're very interesting to follow. Thursday, Saturday, and Monday against Tampa coming up. 3 Tampa games.
Right.
So
well, yeah,
that's
I was saying
the test. We're gonna see what they're all about now.
I was saying to Russ, it's like, okay, it's getting even worse for Montreal in the sense that their next 2 games are against Ottawa. So it's like they're going to go 9-1-2. They're going to beat Ottawa twice, probably. I mean, again, it's like until they face the Winnipegs with Hullebuck, until they face the Leafs, until they face the breadth of the North Division, I can't really determine how good they really are.
No, and I think that's really true. The interesting thing is, so normally if you get out to a really good start like Montreal's, like say they're 9-1-2,
then you can coast.
You're in the playoffs, right? But normally you're in the playoffs. I think I'm not so sure you are this year, and I'll tell you why. Because when you're playing against teams every night that are in your division that are trying to knock you out,
right?
That's going to be different. Like before, you could coast and you're playing a Western Conference team. You could get that at least that point.
Every game's a 4-point game, so yeah,
right.
Yeah,
so
that I think that's a good point and a valid point. But let's just say if they maintain a 500 or slightly above record, then they're in pretty good shape. Then they end up with if they're 9-1-2, and then for the rest of the that's the 44 games they go 22-22 with a couple loser points in there. They're in the playoffs.
Yeah. Now Coburn is on waivers. Braden Coburn's on waivers. Again.
Yeah, we mentioned it off the top. A question we had, and get your opinion, is do you think anybody will claim him? And Russ and I thought that the only way that they think they won't claim him because he's making 1.7, but if
I'm the Flyers,
if Ottawa retained, they think they could get something for him.
I think the Flyers might. If I'm the Flyers, I would do that. Just because he's a veteran guy. He's been here before, obviously, and he's a guy who could help. This defense needs that.
But Russ pointed out that.
One sec, Mike. I'm sorry. Right back.
Yeah. Russ pointed out that Coburn can't play. He can't be the Niskanen replacement. He can't play top pairing minutes with Provorov. And right now, that's really what they need. Gostisbehere is not a good fit, and Braun is not a good fit. So right now, there's nobody available that they can plug in to replace Niskanen's minutes, and that's what they really need. They can't. So I mean, maybe they pick up Coburn if they have the room, but Coburn is a 4, 5, 6 at best. So they might claim, and maybe they claim him if or maybe they trade for him if Ottawa retains some of his salary. But I don't know. I mean, I think that's a move that. Maybe down the line they might do it, but who knows? While X go on here, I'll just mention this, and probably we'll talk about this in the next couple of days. I know Pierre LeBrun wrote about this in The Athletic. Team Canada's roster for the Olympics, and it's too big of a potential roster for the Olympics. It's too big of a subject to talk in the last few minutes. But the news came out today that the Team Canada's management structure is Doug Armstrong as the GM of the Blues, with Ken Holland, Ron Francis, Don Sweeney, Roberto Luongo, and somebody from Hockey Canada named Scott Salmon. Now, you've got a lot of GMs there, a lot of experience there. The thing now, like I said, we'll talk about this on future shows. You look at the list that Pierre LeBrun has put together for Canada, and I think there were a couple exceptions but it's going to be a freaking ridiculous team. And they're building a North American style ice in Beijing. It's not going to be Olympic. So that's going to be a big, yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yep. They just announced it yesterday. It's going to be North American ice, the size rink. So that's going to be a big advantage.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's going to be a big advantage for the U.S. and Canada. And apparently, they said in the piece that I read that the KHL is going to be going towards a North American style because it makes them be able to be more capable internationally of beating Canada and the U.S. when they play internationally. And
you can sell more tickets. You get more seats. I mean, you get it's small. You can add seats. By taking that out, they're going to add seats. So it's going to be that's interesting. I don't know. I'm kind of on both. I think that I'm a bigger fan of this. I'm definitely a bigger fan of the North American arena, but I kind of like the coolness of the Olympics not having it. I always thought it was kind of fun.
LeBrun made the point, and it's right. If you remember, Canada won gold in 2014 in Sochi.
Yeah.
They were on the Olympic style ice, and Babcock basically played a 1-0. Played, no risk, like
One forecheck.
keep everybody to the outside. Don't allow any scoring chances. We rely on our power play and win ugly. And they won ugly. But the thing is, for on Olympic ice, that's possible. On North American ice, it's not. You can't do that.
It's a great point. Yeah, I mean, I agree. So tonight's only 2 games tonight. So Detroit and Tampa, we talk about padding stats. That's going to be a fun one for Tampa, potentially. That's at 5:30. So there's actually we have a doubleheader night if you want to watch some early hockey and late hockey. And then the game of the night, I guess, on NBC is Philly and Boston, which is the one I'll be at. And that is the 2 top teams in the division. So it's going to be a fun one. Potential there. They came off of a split that they had in Boston. We need a new term for this. Like we came off a 3-2 Boston split. You know what I mean? Because they got 3 points out of the split, and the Flyers got 2. So it's a 3-2 Boston split in Boston.
It's difficult to really, they lost, but they got 3 of a possible 4 points. It's like,
it's like it is a 3-2 split, and I think that's how we should refer to it. Remember, you heard it here first, guys. If people start doing that on Sportsnet and stuff like that, you heard it here first. That's the way we're going to refer to it from now on, because it matters a lot. It's not just like they both split. Boston actually came out with 1 more point out of that series, which is big. The Flyers play Boston Wednesday, which is tonight and Friday. So that'll be fun to watch and see what's going on there. Morgan Frost is done for the year.
He had shoulder surgery. It was a dislocated shoulder, but that's a loss because I think he would have, been in their lineup and maybe helped out in the bottom 6.
I mean, I was in the 2 games I got to see him play. The 1 game I saw him live in. Just actually 2 games I saw him live, and just really super impressed with this kid. Like he's they're all kind of different, the newer kids. Like at first I was Farabee and Frost trying to figure out they're both like similar in some ways and different in other ways, and it took a while for me to like grasp what was different about them. But really what is kind of different is like Farabee's more of Couturier-ish. He's not Couturier, but he's got more of Couturier type things in him, where he's smart all over the ice and he makes good plays, and he makes to shoot more than Couturier, which is good. Frost is definitely a Giroux clone. Like that is what he is. He's very Claude Giroux like.
Yeah, Frost I think he has the combination of the speed and the hockey IQ. The questions with him were always early on in his junior career was getting stronger. I think he has gotten stronger, and
true. It's the same question.
And now, it's going to be like probably a 6 to 7 month recovery period, which would put him basically back for training camp next year. That's probably why they figured, okay, have the surgery now and don't try to get him through the year. So he'll be back.
I mean, I think next year he's going to be a force on the team. Like I think you'll see him as like a guaranteed roster player, and because he was working. If he had played this year, he would have definitely worked himself into that. Because even though he was an injury replacement, there's no question in my mind that he is he's ready for the NHL. He just needs to, now this is a really tough loss for him for sure. It's got to be incredibly frustrating for him. And that's all the time we have for today, guys. So thank you very much. If you want to check out my blog today on Darcy Kemper, I want to touch base on that. I've been looking around to try to find out who's interested in him. And we talked yesterday who I think should be interested in him, which is Toronto, and if you wanted that debate,
but they're not.
If you wanted that debate, you can look at it yesterday. Not yet, at least. And then Columbus, Toronto and Colorado is a team we all think should be interested in. That would make a lot of sense. But neither Toronto or Colorado have I gotten any sources to tell me have interest in him. Where I'm getting it is from Edmonton, Carolina, and Buffalo. Those 3 teams actually have interest in him from my sources, at least. That doesn't mean that
Buffalo makes a ton of sense because I just say this: Carter Hutton is done. He came off an injury. He played. He cost them points in the last game against New Jersey because he gave up goals at the end of periods, at the beginning of periods, and a bad one for the game winner. He's not. I don't think he can be a nice guy. He's got a future in hockey media. I just don't think he's an NHL goaltender anymore.
The price seems to be a backup goalie, a 2nd-round draft pick, and a prospect with scoring potential, a forward. a forward prospect with scoring potential. That's so if you were Toronto, that would be Campbell, a second round draft pick, and I don't know who they have. But if you're looking at Buffalo, it would probably be Carter. It would be Hutton probably.
It'd probably be Carter Hutton, a second round pick, and Casey Middlestat.
Yeah, something like that. That's like the perfect kind of thing they're looking for. The question at Edmonton is Mike Smith, if they could convince Mike Smith to go back to Arizona where he's played before. I've heard that would be a possibility.
But he's hurt right now, so that
right now.
But yeah.
So if he was to be put on like LTIR, that that's something that would be an issue apparently with Arizona, because Arizona needs to take they have to take some money back, I guess, to get to the floor. It's really confusing, but there is I think I heard Edmonton would have to keep some of Smith's money if they make that trade. So I'm not quite sure how that would work. And
everything's so tight right now. That's the problem.
It is. But and then the other thing is, that we'll get into tomorrow is Gibson potentially available in Anaheim? Because if the price is going to get up there for a Gemper, Anaheim could be looking at this like, wow, because Gibson is no question is another game changer. And we'll see.
I just can't imagine, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that's all we have today. Thanks so much for hanging on. Sorry I was late today. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey, and without hockey, it's just Mike complaining about McDonald's. That's it.